Coming up, will a first ever March Madness bring a much needed shot in the arm to Indy's beleaguered tourism and hospitality sectors, a jumpstart for the city's downtown? We'll explore the state of the sports industry in Indiana and what's next with Indiana Sports Corporation President Ryan Vaughn. Plus, an Indianapolis-based company says it has found a way to use ultraviolet light to clean the air in school buses and eliminate not only the coronavirus, but influenza and other respiratory viruses as well. Luminaire co-founder Dan Fillenwarth shows us the innovation behind the technology. And
I'm Mary Rachel Redmond in downtown Indy, where the Coca-Cola bottling plant has been restored to its former glory. I'll have more on the hotel coming up.
And we will have details on those stories and a whole lot more on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. You know, for decades, Central Indiana has really counted on sporting events as a major economic driver for the tourism and hospitality sectors. In fact, a recent IUPUI study found that sports generate some $3.4 billion annually in economic activity. That's certainly not been the case in 2020 with the pandemic. It's dramatically impacted the bottom line for hotels, restaurants, and other businesses as well, not just here in Indianapolis, but around the state. We get some perspective on the state of the sports economy and what's next from Indiana Sports Corporation President Ryan Vaughn. And Ryan, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thanks to be with you, even just virtually.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that changes sooner rather than later. But we want to begin. A big story that broke, certainly the impact in the sports business, if you will, has been substantial. But a couple of weeks ago, the NCAA made the announcement it has the intent, it wants to locate the entirety of March Madness in Indianapolis. I know negotiations, talks, very complex deal. Can you give us an update on where things stand?
Yeah, I'm optimistic that we can get there. I mean, certainly we're working, hand in glove with the Visit Indy and the CIB and the city and the state, and of course the NCAA to try and make this possible. There's just a lot of moving parts, to make it a reality. We're talking about multiple competition venues, multiple practice facilities, coordination with the hotels, our public safety officials at the state and local level. But in a typical Indianapolis fashion, everyone's working hard and in good faith. And I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get this done. But it's still a work in progress for sure.
Work in progress, Ryan. But do you think we'll have an answer one way or the other soon, before the end of the year, before Christmas, possibly?
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, the clock's ticking, right? March Madness is just around the corner, and I think we're getting close, very close. That's a reasonable timetable for sure.
Yeah, Ryan, what put in perspective, if you will, the pandemic has impacted all businesses in dramatic ways. What's the last 9 months been like, if you will, for the sports industry and hospitality and tourism?
Yeah, I mean, understandably, incredibly challenging. I feel my heart just breaks for the folks in the hotel world and the restaurants and the entertainment venues. The restrictions necessary and proper around the coronavirus have really just decimated audiences for everyone, and it's caused significant furloughs, layoffs, downsizing. So it's been a real challenge, and it's been a real challenge for our organization and many others. But with all those challenges also comes unique opportunities, and we've tried to stay focused on building our future pipeline, 21 and beyond, and really trying to figure out what can we actually do just to make even just a little bit of a difference. What events can we host? How can we execute them? And we found some success, and potentially March Madness coming here would be a huge feather in our cap toward that effort as well.
Well, there are some that would argue that Indianapolis has fared better than other regions around the country. Case in point, this weekend, the Big Ten football championship will be here, but there will also be a college basketball game in a bubble environment, which Indianapolis continues to negotiate, perhaps to do more of those things.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We've struggled, but we've fared far better than many of our peers. And I think, a large part of that is the good leadership that we've had on the state and local level from the health departments and the mayor's office, and then really just being innovative. The idea that we could create a, controlled environment, single site place for basketball. We shop that around the country. We've had some success with that. We hosted a international FIBA event with Puerto Rico and Mexico, United States and Bahamas. We've got a college game this Friday, Richmond versus Loyola. And we had the Jimmy V and the Championship Classic as well. So we've been able to secure games and have events, not at scale with fans, but certainly, attracting people to Indy, during this really challenging time.
Yeah, as we wrap up, Ryan, as you look at that pipeline you're building 2021 and beyond, the NBA has announced they're delaying or will have their All-Star Weekend here in 2024. Can you give us a sense for that pipeline and how it's come together longer term?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a bid process to extend our Big Ten relationship around football and basketball all the way through 2030, which would be outstanding. We're considering, we're actually mid-bid process on a U.S. Olympic trials for swimming for 2024. We were recently awarded first and second rounds and regionals in NCAA basketball in 24 and 25 respectively. And we've already been awarded the 2026 men's Final Four. And then, of course, you just mentioned the NBA All-Star Game, which will really be fantastic. It might be a blessing in disguise that it was moved out a few years with all the outstanding renovations and improvements that are taking place at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. To have that up and running in a showcase will be special.
Pipeline certainly building. Challenging time for the sports industry, though. Ryan Vaughn, president of the Indiana Sports Corporation. Ryan, as always, thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully in person.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having us.
All right. Well, also this week, some big news in Clinton County with the Frito-Lay plant there in Frankfort announcing an expansion, actually another expansion. Frito-Lay parent PepsiCo says it will invest about $60 million in the facility and add 50 jobs. That expansion to include a new manufacturing line, growing the complex to about 135 acres with 21 snack production lines. Over the past 2 years, Frito-Lay says it has invested more than $230 million and announced 200 new job opportunities. Construction on this latest expansion set to begin early next year. Well, tight spaces and COVID-19, a major health concern, especially for students who board the bus to get to school. Up next, learn how Indianapolis-based Luminaire is using innovative clean air technology to make the ride to class safe. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegiant, pioneering safety. Indianapolis-based Luminaire says it has found a way to get this to eliminate COVID-19 from school buses, utilizing ultraviolet technology by retrofitting air filtration systems to eliminate not only the virus that causes COVID-19, but influenza and other respiratory viruses as well. Pleased to welcome to the show this week Luminaire co-founder and co-owner Dan Fillenwarth, with more on this innovation behind the patent-pending process, the technology here. Dan, I know you're on a school bus, so you're going to give us a little show and tell in a minute, but thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Hey, give us an idea, Dan, on this technology, Luminaire, how it came about, how you came up with the idea for this.
Sure. So me and my partners, we looked at school facilities and said, what is the most densely populated portion of a school facility? And perhaps what is the least supervised as well, given that the driver's paying attention to the road. And certainly that's the school bus. As you see behind me, school buses are very popularly density, and So there's a need to clean and disinfect air on a bus.
Talk about the process. Now you're partnering with, again, it's ultraviolet technology, light technology. Talk about you're partnering with a Lebanon company on this, and then give us a little show and tell on
Yes.
how this works, what the idea, the concept is.
Certainly. So yes, American Ultraviolet out of Lebanon, Indiana, has been doing this since 1960. UVC has been used since the late 30s to inactivate respiratory viruses and control pathogens. All we're doing is we're taking a simple solution that would have been used in HVAC. We just retrofit the return air grill with a high amount of UVC. I want to point out that stays in this enclosure. It doesn't escape onto the participants or the occupants. We don't put anything into the air, spray any gases or anything like that we'd claim would be safe for occupants, yet harmful for bacteria and viruses. And then that air, as it's cleaned in this section is before it's then distributed back out through the supply air to where all the students would be sitting.
So you're looking at this product as something, short term here, dealing with the pandemic that we're in, but also longer term, post-pandemic, and what the environment will be like on school buses, but also city buses, metro buses all over the country, potentially.
Yes, we've got an excellent product for metro and city buses. We've had a lot of interest from various regional transportation associations. And there's some things about that we all want to get back to normal as quickly as we can. But there's some things about normal that we can, I think, move beyond and improve. For instance, we don't have to have 7 million students miss 15 more days school like we did pre-COVID-19. We don't have to go back to the huge amount of kids or people that would die of the flu each year either.
Yeah, very quickly, Dan, only have 15 seconds left, but I know you're in multiple states looking at approvals, and you're hoping to get business in not only in Indiana, but other states as well.
Yes, sir.
All right, Florida among them, Ohio, and some others. Will continue to follow the story. Luminaire, Dan Fillenwarth. Dan, interesting technology, very timely as well. We look forward to having you on the show to talk about it a few months down the road.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
All right, Dan. Well, as we look at spending the night in what used to be the world's largest bottling plant, how does that sound? Well, it is a reality now that the BOTTLEWORKS Hotel is opened in the former Coca-Cola bottling plant in downtown Indianapolis. Our Mary Rachel Redmond takes us inside the newly renovated space in this week's Around Indiana. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Brought to you by Chapman Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing, the man for all seasons. ChapmanHeating.com. Well, the BOTTLEWORKS Hotel in downtown Indianapolis officially opened this week. The BOTTLEWORKS Hotel is the first big milestone in the massive $300 million downtown mixed-use development at the former Coca-Cola bottling plant along Mass Ave. Our Mary Rachel Redmond takes us inside the BOTTLEWORKS Hotel. It's a 140-room boutique hotel that has a history all its own.
Smart, efficient rhythm of modern industry on the move.
It was 1931, and James Yunker and his brother Lee embarked upon what was billed as the finest bottling plant in the country.
Every bottling plant is an integral part of the business life of the community.
Despite the United States suffering through the Great Depression, the Yunker brothers defied the odds to construct perhaps the most beautiful Coca-Cola complex ever built. From its glistening white terracotta exterior and ornate Art Deco style interior, the brothers quickly began to grow a booming business.
They were able to expand more than doubling its size from Massachusetts Avenue up to 10th Street.
By 1950, this was the largest bottling operation of its kind, producing more than 2 million bottles of Coca-Cola per week.
This was the largest bottling facility in the world.
Now, nearly 70 years later, it's part of a rebirth that will mean Indianapolis neighborhood.
For decades, this property was not accessible.
but I was lucky enough to snag a sneak peek.
We worked with Indiana Landmarks to tell us a bit of the story of this building. The address was on Massachusetts Avenue, which is where the main entrance is, which is now our lobby. This was once the main entrance of the offices of the Younger brothers.
Is this all original?
This is all original. The staircase, the curvature is reminiscent of soda fountains. And then on the ceiling, the circle there is reminiscent of bubbles. As you came up the rotunda, the secretary would greet you here. You'd find her little secretary desk, and she had her own private bathroom.
And
of
it's
course,
pink.
Very feminine, why not? This is definitely one of the most unique rooms in the entire building. This was the lab. This is where kind of the magic happened. They created the Coca-Cola. If there was too much pressure and the bottle caps popped off, they were thrown down these chutes, and so you could actually still see the bottle caps here for Coca-Cola.
So what's the significance? I've seen these throughout the hall.
Yeah, the red door, we like to say this building is a classic reimagined. As part of the brand, it's a nod to Coca-Cola. So this is one of our landmark kings. Again, you see little touches of red throughout.
In all of your rooms, you've got Indiana products.
So here you'll see Best Chocolate in Town, located just across the street from the hotel. We also have Broad Ripple Chip Company. Our beds manufactured Temper Sealy. We have Gilchrist and Soames, also in Plainfield. Our Bluetooth speakers available in every guest room are Klipsch, so we're loving to support local and really embrace all things Indiana. This here is a fully functioning garage door. Just beyond it, you'll see a second grid. Those are actually screens. This door could be open for airflow throughout the building.
It's all original.
Yep, all original, and the trucks would come in and out. On the exterior, you'll actually see receiving. And just beyond these doors is where we will find Modita, which will be a full-service restaurant. It's a really unique space.
And as the BOTTLEWORKS district embarks upon the largest private development in Indiana's history amid a global pandemic, one can almost see the parallels with what the Younger brothers did so many years before. During the Great Depression.
We've been very lucky. Obviously, construction continued through the pandemic, so we have some great local contractors, regional contractors, just very skilled tradesmen. I'm thrilled to see their photographs throughout our hotel and the guest hallways. It really is a tribute to their talents. Our industry has been hit pretty hard through the pandemic, but we're excited to open our doors to showcase what hospitality is in Indiana and bring something new to the city.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. Fascinating facility there for sure. Well, also making headlines around Indiana this week, some major news in northern Indiana, where a St. Joseph County factory that used to produce sport utility Hummers, at least until 2009, is getting new life, producing electric delivery vans. Michigan-based Electric Last Mile Solutions says it intends to manufacture the battery-powered vehicles at the 650,000 square foot auto plant in Mishawaka, which is adjacent to the AM General plant producing military Humvees. Now get this, later in the week, Last Mile said it wants to invest $30 million and add more than 950 jobs. The move is made possible by a merger between Elms and Forum Merger 3 Corporation, a Florida-based investment firm, and a deal valued at $1.4 billion. Well, if you're buying a new car, a Fortville-based startup says it has the answer for you. That story next. Well, let's face it, buying a car can be time-consuming, confusing, and sometimes frustrating. Well, Fortville-based Car Snoop says it is on a mission to help make the car buying process easier, and it's launched an app-based new car buying solution. Already, the company has plans to expand into Louisville and Cincinnati, as well as other markets. And for more on the company, the business model, and more, pleased to welcome to the show the founder and president of Car Snoop, Cole Kiesling. And Cole, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, the online car buying process, if you will, as I look at it, it's kind of gone from something that people looked at that as the future of the car industry. But with the pandemic, it's really put a sense of urgency on that. Your business, if you will, the industry, the sector you're in, has changed a lot because of the pandemic.
Yeah, drastically, really. I mean, it's unprecedented market shift. You know, before the pandemic, we were already in the process of building what we're building. But in the last 9 months, consumers have gone from 30% to over 60% willingness to completely purchase a car online.
Wow.
So to double that is really unprecedented.
Yeah. Okay. Talk about your business model, because it is an interesting one in the process, and folks really can do this almost exclusively online, not really connecting person to person with the dealership. How does it work?
Yeah, so CarSnoop, we are a very unique platform. We have an app you can download on iOS or Google Play, and you can also go to carsnoop.com. But what we do is we eliminate the stress of car buying. There's a lot of anxiety. So what you can do with us is download the app, go online, and you can build the exact vehicle that you want. Make, model, trim, packages, color, accessories, everything, okay? We have all the build data that all the manufacturers have. So you build your exact car you want. If you have a trade-in, you scan the VIN number of your trade, you upload your photos, you update your mileage, and then all that information goes together out to the dealerships. Look at it this way. When you want to buy a car, you have to communicate with dealerships, lots of emails, lots of text messages, lots of phone calls, ultimately a lot of communication that doesn't get you anywhere. Well, with us, when it goes out to our dealer network and you're looking, let's say, for a Chevy Silverado, you're going to have 6 Chevy stores responding to you without knowing anything about you, your gender, your race, where you live, your phone number, your email address, any of that information. They don't have it. And what's really neat is you're only talking to managers. So they're the ones that are responding to you. We skip salespeople, we skip internet departments. We eliminate having to do all that extra communication.
Hey, very quickly, Cole, we've only got 10 seconds left, 15 seconds. You've already got expansion plans. You're looking at Cincy, Louisville. Talk about where you see things going.
Yeah, we're gonna quickly advertise to Cincinnati and Louisville, facilitate deals out of our Indianapolis market with consumers there, and then we're gonna sign up dealers in those market areas and then move out from there. I have over 60 dealerships in our network here in Indianapolis.
Fortville-based startup CarSnoop expanding in a big way. Will be interesting to watch this story unfold. Cole Kiesling, the founder and president, thanks for joining us and good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, November was a big month, $250 million plus, actually a record month for sports betting in Indiana. What does that mean? How is the state benefiting from that sports handle? Bill Benner has more Inside Indiana Sports when we return. Well, in a year filled with uncertainties, one sure bet seems to be the growth of sports betting in Indiana. Bill Benner takes a deeper dive inside Indiana sports. Bill, over to you.
Gary, thank you. Earlier this month, the Indiana Gaming Commission reported that the Indiana sports wagering totaled a November record of more than $250 million, a figure aided by the success of the college football programs at Notre Dame and Indiana and the Indianapolis Colts' drive toward the NFL playoffs. That meant $2.4 million for state tax coffers and a total of nearly $15 million in revenue for the state since sports wagering was legalized in Indiana in 2019. And joining us today to offer perspective is Jessica Wellman, who serves as an analyst for a website called Play Indiana. And we welcome Jessica to the program. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, I'm wonderful, and we appreciate you being on the show. You guys monitor this all the time. And again, a staggering month of sports wagering success in Indiana in November. I think it was a 90% increase year over year from last November. Kind of what's driving this?
A lot of it is what you mentioned, the Hoosier football success, the fact that Notre Dame is having such a benchmark year and that the Colts are having a good season as well. Local teams we see drive these local state numbers quite a bit. But it's also simply that we're a year into Indiana sports betting now. October 2019 was the first month that operators took bets, and now there are more operators in the space. And I think, we had obviously the dip of when there were basically no sports to bet on, what with COVID-19. But now that we're coming back with new operators like BetMGM and PointsBet who are not wasting money. They are spending on marketing and awareness and getting the word out in Indiana about what you can bet on and how much fun it can be.
Well, and they certainly are getting the word out, a robust marketing and advertising campaign. It's hard to turn on the television or radio at any time and not see something promoting sports gaming. Let's talk about your service and what you do. What is Play Indiana, Jessica?
We are a news resource for gamblers in Indiana or anybody just interested in the Indiana gambling scene. So sports betting is obviously the bulk of what we're looking at just because it seems to be the newest, biggest industry. But we also cover the Indiana lottery, what's going on with land-based casinos, and any other types of gambling that are offered in Indiana.
Jessica, you're a native Kentuckian, but you got your master's degree at Indiana University. You are certainly aware that this is a conservative as Indiana moved toward legalizing sports wagering, but it's been a robust tax revenue generator for the state of Indiana.
It absolutely has, and I think what helps with Indiana is that it's a gambling environment that draws from other states. You have Kentucky that doesn't have casinos or sports betting. You have Ohio that doesn't have sports betting. And Illinois, up until recently, didn't have sports betting either. So the fact that there are so many big cities on the edge of Indiana, I think makes it all the more beneficial that Indiana was quick to legalize sports betting, because a lot of the money that these sports books are making are actually probably not coming from Indianans.
And despite, you mentioned Illinois just recently coming online, despite increased competition, Indiana, you think will continue to thrive in this market?
Absolutely. I mean, Illinois cannot be understated as a sports betting market. It really has only launched betting in the last 5 months, and it's already a top 4 market in the United States as a sports betting market. But the fact that Indiana, since launch, continues to grow and build the number of bets and amount of money being wagered each month leads me to believe that it's not as I thought it would take a hit given Illinois launching, but it seems to be a very stable market, a very healthy market. And I think a lot of that is because the Indiana Gaming Commission has taken a very forward-thinking approach to betting, and they do a lot of interesting things. They follow along with New Jersey and offer things like betting on the Oscars. You could bet on the Nathan's hot dog eating contest this year. And I think that the fact that they're willing to try new things when other states won't will continue to benefit them in the long term.
Jessica, as we wrap up, if people want to learn more about Play Indiana or just follow the staggering numbers, how can they do that?
They should check into playindiana.com. We have the numbers right away. We have historical numbers to take a look at who's on the rise, who's not, and we've got all sorts of interesting stories that are not as businessy too. So if anybody has an interest in gaming, playindiana.com is the place to be.
Well, Jessica, we certainly appreciate your insights. You're an analyst for playindiana.com, and we wish you the best going forward. And thanks for being on the show with us.
Thank you for having me.
Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, Purdue University and the United States Military Academy at West Point are partnering to build an autonomous race car for the Indy Autonomous Challenge in 2021. Now, the partners have formed Black and Gold Autonomous Racing and will debut the car alongside other collegiate teams next October at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The challenge features a series of events where teams address topics like artificial intelligence, sensors, and data science in the operation of high-speed autonomous race cars. The first place team will be awarded, get this, $1 million for crossing the finish line in 25 minutes or less in a head-to-head 20-lap race of driverless Dallara Indy Lights vehicles around the IMS Oval. The Global Challenge will attract high-profile teams from all over the globe, and is an opportunity for students to develop and test algorithms as well as address challenges related to navigation at high speeds. Well, two former Hoosier basketball greats are teaming up to make a big play in the business world. Dr. Steve Green and Brian Evans played 20 years apart at Indiana University, but they were both coached by Bob Knight, and that connection really laid the foundation for a business relationship, and they're now teammates leading Aurora Sleep. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Aurora Sleep launched just a couple months ago to help Hoosiers get a good night's rest. The founders say sleeping well is more important than ever during the pandemic to help build natural immunity and overall health. The young company sells custom-made oral devices to treat snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Green says his 35 years in dentistry exposed a great need for personalized devices. He is co-founder and clinical director for Aurora Sleep. He joins me now along with Brian Evans, President and Chief Executive Officer. Thank you both for being on the show today.
Sure, thanks for having us.
All right, well, it's Indiana, so we have to talk basketball first. You're both very familiar names for IU basketball fans. Dr. Green, you were Bob Knight's first recruit at IU, and you played there in the early 70s, went on to play for the Pacers. Brian, you played in the early 90s at IU, also went on to the NBA. How did your common basketball background at IU help build that connection for a business relationship?
Well, Coach Knight used to have Dr. Green come in and visit with the team every year. And so I met Steve for the first time as a freshman in 1992 as an 18-year-old. And I had a real high opinion of him. He was just very well spoken and was so great when he'd come in and visit with us. Over the last 3 or 4 years, as we've been building towards this launch, I've gotten to know him really well. He's become a great friend, and he's a fantastic teammate. We trust and believe in one another. He's an absolute expert in this space. I'm awful lucky.
All right, Dr. Green, why did you put your faith in this youngin' who played so many years after you at IU?
Well, number one, Kylie, he wore my number, 34. So I loved him, and he's a shooter. So there you go. But actually, I was talking to another former Hoosier, Joe Hillman, one day and telling him about what I wanted to do in sleep. And he said, the guy you got to talk to is Brian Evans, because of his medical background. And so we got together along those lines. But also, most importantly, I trusted Brian immediately. I mean, I know where he came from. I know what he did in high school and college and pros athletically, but I also knew what kind of guy he was. So for me, it was a matter of trust and a matter of I knew a guy that was going to work hard for us. And he sure has done that.
All right, well, let's talk business now. Aurora makes oral devices to treat snoring and sleep apnea. So, Brian, there are other companies in this space, but you say a key differentiator for Aurora is that these are custom-made devices. Explain the importance of that.
Well, Kylie, there's nobody quite like Aurora in the space. Yes, so these are custom devices for both snoring and sleep apnea. We make them in a 35-minute appointment window. So folks come in, we make them a device, custom device, they leave with it, sleep with it that same night. We also offer our customers what we call the Aurora Promise, which allows them 7 nights of complimentary trial wearing our device. They never get returned. Even if somebody wanted to bring it back, their bed partner doesn't let them do it.
All right, so Dr. Green, you have 35 years of experience in dentistry, and much of that time was spent in dental sleep medicine, which I think is a specialty a lot of people haven't even heard of. How did that dental sleep medicine make you realize that there was a real need for something like this?
Well, Kylie, it really started with my own sleep journey, if you will. Several years ago, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea. And was given, the only treatment option at that time was the CPAP, and I was unable to wear it. Actually made my own, made my own first device, if you will, for me. I was my own first patient in sleep, and it worked, fabulously for me. So I became more and more interested in it and wanted to offer it to more folks. And I was astounded to find out the number of people that don't know that they even have sleep apnea issues. And more importantly, there are 3 times as many people that have snoring issues. So we wanted to tackle both of those things with Aurora. And really, our main thrust here initially certainly is to help more Hoosiers sleep better at night, whether they snore or have sleep apnea.
And Brian, just a few seconds left, but I know you have some big business plans. You want to develop your own device. You are developing your own device, and also start an affiliate program for dentistry practices. Can you touch on just both those things?
Sure can. Yes, we do. We have a new design, new technology. So yeah, we're very excited about that. And we know good sleep is critical. You know, and it's not just the snorer, it's the bed partner that suffers. And so in order to like Dr. Green said, to reach as many Hoosiers as possible, we were much like Invisalign, we're building an affiliate program with dental practices across the state of Indiana to do just that.
All right, well, I know sleep is certainly even more important now as we're all in the pandemic. And I know, Dr. Green, you're really passionate about people getting good sleep right now to build their immunity. I'm sorry we don't have time to talk about it, but congratulations on the partnership, and we'll be following you. Keep us posted.
Sure, thanks for having us on.
Thanks, Kylie.
Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, when state lawmakers return to work at the Indiana General Assembly, it's a budget writing session. They'll be faced with one major challenge, among others. Details on the funding push to sustain and strengthen Indiana's pre-K programs, and why it continues to be a big business issue. Well, the Indiana General Assembly will convene in just a few weeks, and one of the key issues legislators will be asked to tackle is continued funding for early childhood education. A coalition of state business, civic, and philanthropic leaders has unveiled a new name for their advocacy efforts to strengthen Indiana's pre-K program. Early Education Works will encourage lawmakers to invest in Indiana's existing pre-K programs while taking additional steps to enhance the quality, affordability, and capacity of the state's entire early education sector. And for more on those efforts, pleased as always to be joined by United Way of Central Indiana President and CEO Ann Mertlow. Ann, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Let's talk about this. You got a new name. These are efforts that you and others have really put a lot of effort into and has been gaining momentum for the past several years. Talk about the need for this new name and really what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, formerly, this was known as All In for Pre-K Coalition, which formed about 4 years ago. Early Education Works is now a growing collaboration of 40 plus state and local chambers of commerce, employers, academia, philanthropic organizations, nonprofit, and early child care and education experts. And it's led by United Way of Central Indiana. And as we have done in the past, we are advocating for young children at a critical development stage, basically from birth to 5, who need and deserve access to high quality early education in order to be successful in their later education and ultimately in life, but also advocating for low-income parents, caregivers, and families who stand to benefit from early childhood programs by allowing them to be active in Indiana's workforce. So in 2017, the General Assembly voted to expand Indiana's pre-K program for low-income children with an investment of $22 million a year. But today we want to continue that momentum to sustain and strengthen Indiana's commitment to early childhood education for 2021 and beyond. And there could not be a more important time to do it given the economic effects of this pandemic.
But make the business case, Ann, if you will. This has become such an important issue in the business community and has been for the past several years. Why is it such really a hot button issue for businesses all over the state of Indiana?
Well, because businesses need employees to sustain and to grow. And we also need access to employees to be able to recruit new businesses here to Indiana. So the economic toll of a childcare crisis is really why this is an imperative at the government level, why it needs to be and is at the business level, and also at the nonprofit level. So if you think about it, early childhood education really delivers a strong return on investment to the state, with every dollar invested generating at least $4 in reduced spending and higher lifetime earnings. If you think about it, Indiana loses nearly $1.1 billion in economic activity every year due to childcare related absenteeism and turnover. Those disruptions cost the state an additional about $120 million in tax revenue annually. And employers also have direct costs from childcare disruptions that total nearly $1.8 billion annually. So it is an economic imperative for parents and for the success of families, and it is also imperative for the children who need that great early start in order to be successful as adults later on.
Yeah, and staggering numbers. And as you mentioned a moment ago, really underscored in the wake of the pandemic. Talk about your agenda as you look at this budget writing, very important session of the Indiana General Assembly. Give us a couple of key points on your agenda.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, I really do think that this is both a short-term and a long-term investment that is worthwhile for the state. So we will, in addition to advocating to expand Indiana's On My Way pre-K program to serve more children from low-income households across the state, we will be looking for 5 other things. And that is to increase provider participation and advancement in paths to quality, which is the state's rating system, while tying the state's rating system to clearly defined learning outcomes. To establish an integrated data system to report on the supply and demand of early childhood education systems across state agencies, to basically incentivize the creation of provider networks and other shared services to drive the economies of scale required to sustain low-margin early childhood education providers, to strategically invest existing child care and development fund dollars to reduce market volatility and stabilize a critical supply of high-quality care in communities statewide while maintaining family choice, which is very important, and then investing in new and existing preparation pathways and retention strategies to efficiently build and maintain the caliber and supply of workforce required to meet demands of this high-value industry, which is an employer in and of itself.
Ann Mertlow, United Way of Central Indiana, President and CEO, a leader in early education works. A lot of folks, PNC among them, involved with this initiative. Very important budget writing session of the General Assembly. Ann, thanks for joining us. I know we'll be talking more about this during the session. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Well, the Next Level Teacher Compensation Commission has released its report detailing recommendations on teacher pay in Indiana. The commission says the current statewide average pay for public school teachers is about $53,000 per year. That's the 9th lowest among 12 Midwest states. The panel is targeting $60,000 for average pay, which would put Indiana about 3rd among neighboring states in the Midwest. This is a report that has been talked about. Governor Eric Holcomb suggested this report some time ago. The panel targeting $60,000 for average pay again, which would put Indiana 3rd among neighboring states. The report includes about 37 recommendations for local school corporations and state government that could improve teacher compensation through expense relocation, additional revenue, or policy changes. While looking to support Indiana, Brown says it's making it much easier by creating a new marketplace, an online marketplace that could benefit the bottom line for more than 500,000 Hoosier small businesses. We'll have details when we come back. Well, Indiana Grown, a product of the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, says it is meeting the challenges that COVID-19 has created when it comes to buying products made in Indiana. The organization has just launched the Shop Indiana Grown online marketplace. It's a free service offering members an additional sales outlet during a time when online retail is really critical to the success of businesses statewide. For details on the marketplace and why it is so vital at this particular time, we're pleased to be joined by Indiana Grown Program Director Heather Tallman. As always, Heather, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, Indiana Grown. To tee up this conversation, describe Indiana Grown. It's 5 years old now, started from rather modest beginnings with a great idea and has grown exponentially. Tell us what Indiana Grown is all about.
So our whole goal is to market and elevate all agricultural products that are packaged, raised, grown, and processed in Indiana. So that is market hogs for bacon or even roasted coffee, because they're taking those agricultural products and roasting them and changing them and creating economic development within the state. And so we are here as a form of marketing and promotion for agriculture.
And really, there are so many products, really quality products, all over the state of Indiana that a lot of folks don't know about. And that's really what Indiana Grown brings to light.
It does. And I think we want people to remember that they can find local food at the farmers market, of course, at specialty stores, but also on online farmers markets, at the grocery store, and a lot of drive-throughs, and of course, a lot of restaurants. So we try to serve that reminder consumers every day.
Okay, Shop Indiana Grown, you just launched it this week. It's an online connection for consumers to these farmers and businesses and others. Talk about the online version and what that is all about.
So we launched on Monday, and this is a project we've been working on since 2019, so pre-pandemic, and it's going to give our members the opportunity to list their products to sell if they have a product that they can ship. And so they list their products as a vendor, they get the orders and they ship it. We're not handling it or shipping it, but we see this as another alternative for our members to have an avenue which to sell. For some of them, this is going to be new, and some of them are already selling in this online space.
Talk about membership. You've got a huge membership in the program. How many of those, how many do you have in the online version?
So we have a little over 1,700 members right now in Indiana Grown. For the online store, we wanted to start small and start carefully. So we have a little under 40, and we expect that to grow. Right now, I'm looking at 15 vendor applications today to look at vendors and products that we can put on there, hopefully by the end of the weekend.
Do you look at this maybe as a kind of that next iteration, the next generation of the Indiana Grown initiative, maybe prompted by the pandemic, the challenges there, but this online piece being something that will continue on far past the pandemic?
You know, you're right. I mean, we have to stay on the trend of what consumers are asking for. Every year at the Indiana State Fair, we have a marketplace, and we do get asked often, you know, why can I not find these things in my area? Why can't I find them online? How can I ship a gift basket to my daughter who's out of state? You know, we get those questions, and we've taken it all into consideration, and our members wanted this online avenue. So that's why we provided it for them. But we see this as a great tool moving forward for economic development in the agribusiness space, just looking at what consumer demands are, especially in the pandemic and then on.
Heather, as we wrap up, can you calculate the economic impact that the Indiana Grown initiative has had? There are so many great entrepreneurs making great products all over the state of Indiana, a lot of them in rural areas that need an economic shot in the arm. Any idea to calculate the impact that Indiana Grown has had statewide?
Well, you know, I don't have those numbers right now. We have launched an economic impact study with Purdue. We hope to have the first preliminary numbers in early February, but we hear stories every day and every week from consumers who are discovering new vendors to buy from, and from our members who have had increased sales because of the program. So those are good stories we count on for sure.
ShopIndianaGrown.org is the website, the online marketplace for Indiana Grown. Heather Tallman, as always, thanks for joining us. You do great work there at the organization. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Coming up next week, a special edition of our show. Our Mary Rachel Redmond gives us a best of her Around Indiana segments, from Ivanhoe's in Grant County to a bat maker in Northwest Indiana and more. That's next week. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures, with support from WFYI Productions.